seat.
You're not the co-host today. You are the host today. I'm the co-host.
I was lied to.
Because you had a haircut and you've looked a bit better. So I thought,
Fair
I'm all
enough.
about promoting and giving people opportunities. So today
All right, I'll
is
take
your
that.
opportunity.
I don't get many compliments from you, so I'll take that one. So yeah. What are we starting with today then, inshallah?
Well, I think today what we said we'd do, we'd talk about some real community issues. We've been having some messages and some conversations between the shows. And people have been saying, there's a lot of things happening in our communities, and you're highlighting some of the good work the volunteers have been doing, and so on and so on. But there's things that are going on that we don't like to talk about and we don't like to address, and so on and so on. So I thought today, let's talk about some of the, not negatives, but some of the things that we don't like to speak about as a community. What are we doing about those? Are we doing anything? Are we doing enough? Is the obvious question. And then some positives, there's some really big positives, I think, in our community. And I'm just really struggling at the minute of trying to establish of how we can make that positive even better, both internally within our own communities, but then also externally to wider communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about today. But
Sounds good.
You're the boss. You're the boss.
So pick a topic out of the hat.
God,
Something
what?
that's contentious, but we know, because for example, since we've been on, since the beginning, there's been a number of private messages and messages up there that we haven't been able to share. And we don't want to be accused by anybody of hiding away from some of these issues.
Yeah, I think on an issues thing, and they're not all negative things. There's some obvious things in our communities, like mental health. Mental health is a really big thing.
But it's not understood.
It's not understood. It's not kind of appreciated. It's kind of put away as if it doesn't exist. People don't want to talk about it. It's a bit of a taboo subject, but it's real.
It's real.
And it happens.
But the stigma attached to it, that's why.
The stigma's bad. And because of that stigma, a lot of people that are suffering at low levels, starting with depressions, and they're looking for their GPs. They try and hide these things. Sometimes it's just about communicating and having conversations and being able to share what you're going through. We can't do that.
But more often than not, males, we are the worst.
Yeah,
we don't like to speak
males
out.
are worse than females.
We don't like to speak out because it's seen as a weakness. How many people would genuinely have reached out to a family member or a friend to say, I'm suffering from anxiety, that's why I can't go to this interview, or I don't like to be in crowded places, or I'm feeling suicidal. How many people would do that? I think it's got better that there's been a lot more celebrities or people you could say there's a lot more people that are in TV that are speaking out, more footballers, etc. So that's made a few more people feel bit more like, well, if it can happen to him, it can happen to me. So there's nothing wrong with me speaking out.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And these are things that are happening to everybody. It's not just us and it's not just them, if you want to look at it like that. It happens in all parts of society for different reasons. Some of it's pressure, work pressure, family pressure, stuff you don't know how to deal with, and you need to speak to people just to be able to manage some circumstances or a change. There's a whole range of different reasons. I think I read a stat, and I'll probably get this wrong and somebody may shoot me down, but males and between, I'm going to say late 30s and early 50s, high suicide rates.
I'm not surprised.
Really high suicide rates. It actually surprised me when I read the article. I'm just not very good at retaining information, but we can look these things up. So that's something that's in our community that we don't acknowledge. But when we're speaking about all these things, I want people to think, who are listening to this, where would you go for help and support around any of these topical things that we'll talk about over the next?
Or what would stop you in the beginning? Actually,
what would stop you, or where
from
would
even
you
going
go?
In the beginning?
Internally, first and foremost, because what I think we should be asking ourselves as communities is, if we need support, can we do it within our own community networks first and foremost? So we keep that kind of Islamic ethos. We have that understanding of how our communities, culturally, ethically, religiously, we know how that works. So can we receive support around some of these topical issues in our community? For me, a lot of the answers to those questions are no. And if they are, or we can, it's done very sporadically. You know, some great people out there doing some stuff behind the scenes that you don't even hear of, you know, and for the right reasons as well. And they're doing some fantastic work. So let's not forget that. But as a main, you know, if your brother was in trouble, if your sister was in trouble, if your dad or mum needed some support within the Muslim community for mental health, where would they go? For domestic violence, where would they go? For substance misuse or some support around prevention to do with substances, where would they go? Now, there are groups, but we don't have that platform of knowledge that it's just there and we can say, we can help.
It's not widely accepted that there would be any type of signposting service or even just initial, you know, the open door conversation. It doesn't exist. And especially with domestic violence, for example, that's a huge one.
Honestly, wearing a number of hats, Hassan, without any question whatsoever, at least once a month, I will have contact with a family, Muslim family, who need some serious support and help relating to domestic violence. And I'm not even joking. And sometimes
I can believe that.
It's sad. It's sad, some of the circumstances that you come across. But then it's also sad that most of the referrals and the support that we try to put in with these families are outside of our Muslim community. Yeah,
the external agencies.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing
wrong with that. Don't get me wrong, because they do amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. And that they don't have any barriers around, you know, you're white, you're black, you're Pakistani, you're Muslim, you're Hindu. They don't care. You need help, they'll be there for you. But my question is,
why is there nothing standalone? Why are we not doing it
within our own community? And you can choose to go out. That's your choice. You can get support wherever you can, but we should be making it available.
But the fact it's not available is what is leading people to go down the other routes and go into the less kind of traditional agencies for support. So in the last few months, I've helped a few people that have suffered from domestic violence quite horribly.
Yeah.
And same thing, when we were signposting and trying to access support, it was all, you know, it was all like your most inclusive, and the best organizations were the ones that were just open and saying, we don't have a label. And it isn't anything specific. And one of the reasons for that is in probably 99% of these cases, a lot of it was brushed under the carpet when they did reach out within the community. So those old school routes of having the elders or people that were trying to support, or they were approached, they were in on it. Okay, so there was a lot of complicity. There's going to be a lot of listeners and viewers. People will either agree with this or disagree. Feel free to text in or call in if you disagree. But a lot of the time, the complicity that exists is as bad as the abusers, and they know the abuse is taking place, but they're choosing not to get involved. Family politics, village politics, community politics. They don't want to offend the big businessman or the big person who's the perpetrator or linked. And they know exactly what is going on. And
it's destroying lives. It's destroying families. You know, the percentage chance of young people growing up in a household like that and then going on to be a perpetrator or a victim of the same kind of abuse is unbelievably high. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Why would you want to put your children through that? But that's another one. The other one that always comes up is drugs. Always comes up in terms of our youngsters involved in criminality around drugs, and
sadly it's never going to go away.
Low-level recreational use. You know, people always make reference to, you know, there's kids parked up outside my house. They're just sitting there smoking.
Yeah.
You know, and you say they say they never cause any trouble. They're not aggressive. They're not violent. You know, they're not loud music out of cars, but they're sitting smoking in the cars, and it's there. It's there, you know through yourself, we've been doing drugs prevention work for years and years and years, but it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yes, it is.
You can see it more blatantly now, you know, the work that you're in and the work that I'm in and the kind of public life that we have. You know, I don't want to say we're not daft, but we're not
We know,
daft.
we know.
We know what's going on.
There is always going to be the undercurrent and things that are under the carpet. We see that, but on the surface, the conviction rate for Muslim teenagers or Muslim men per se is through the roof.
It's ridiculous.
And there was a time when we did try to speak out to a number of community representatives who said, what problem? There is no problem here. That was the response. What problem are you talking about?
See, that worries me hearing.
But it worried us then until we had to confront them with things like newspaper cuttings from the Leicester Mercury, or just Google itself and say, look at how many names of these are Muslims.
Somebody actually sent me a message with an article from the Leicester Mercury. They do this thing. It's where they select a month, or they say 2021 convictions of people. The main
and it's a whole range of mugshots on there.
Whole range of mugshots and names, and it gives a brief account of what they've done. And they sent it to me, and they goes, just count the number and then question mark. And they never made reference to anything else, but it said just count the number.
Yeah.
But what they were referring to, when you look at it, and you can look at it yourself, go on the Leicester Mercury website and look for the kind of criminal hotspots or whatever, you can see the majority are our kids.
Yeah.
Our kids.
I can believe that.
And that's, again, an issue. And it happens, I don't think we should shy away from the fact that it can sometimes touch us within our networks, within our families, within our social groups. It's there, it's in front of us. Sometimes it's so close to us as well. That shouldn't deter us from trying to turn it off for the better of society.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't.
But one thing we have to be clear about, obviously, I don't want to bore the listeners and make them fall asleep right before iftar, but there is always reasons why people get involved in offending of any sort on any crime. For anything like that to take place, there is a variety of reasons, and we need a few hours to do that type of show on criminology. But basically, there is some of the most bigger reasons why people have got involved is usually through friendship circles.
Yeah.
So friendship circles and community links, or through family. And it's unfortunate, and just because they have committed a crime doesn't make them a bad person. They've got trapped into something like that, or it is the chase that's attracted them, the chase for money and to make fast money. So that, sometimes to try and convince a teenager that working at, say, Primark or Lidl is going to be better for him than selling drugs on the street, it can be very difficult when they are presenting you, or her, of course, yes.
The number of females involved.
And it's a hard conversation to have with a female or a male teenager to say, look, I know you can make $1,000 a day or whatever it is that you're claiming to make from drugs or other things, schemes you're involved in. But if you worked like a normal job, halal.
Or legitimate.
Yeah, halal, legitimate job, and not having to look over your shoulder or worry about the police or other criminals trying to take the money, whatever, you'd live such a more peaceful life.
Yeah.
But eventually people do learn. Sometimes it's the hard way, but there is lessons to be learned from all of these things.
Absolutely, I mean the girls thing, that's really surprising.
Female offenders are shot up in the last 20 years.
Past 5 years, that I've become really conscious of it, and now it's just a norm. It's just an absolute norm within all of these things. But yeah, it's, what do you think about poverty and all of that? Social deprivation and poverty.
Poverty will always be one of the reasons why people will offend, because it's that, the kind of intrinsic reason.
Is that a reason, though? Is that a reason?
Well,
so
your average offender will tell you that it's an intrinsic reason for them to say, look, I needed to provide for my family or for myself, so therefore I took the easiest option. Somebody put me onto it, and it may have been illegal, but we weren't harming anyone. So that's the key. They'll say, I wasn't harming anybody.
So you're a professional caseworker with a young person. This is not, I'll be the young person that's committing crime, and you are the professional. I know you are the professional anyway, so you should be able to answer this. And you're sitting there talking to me, and I've just been convicted of, possession and supplying Class A drugs. And I'm on an order with yourself, and you would be my caseworker.
Yeah.
These are real cases for you, in the job that you do. What do you constantly hear in terms of, well, it's because of, or I've done it because, or you know how it is. What comes out
usually,
of their mouth?
Usually it's things about I haven't got opportunities. So
okay, that's important.
Yeah, it's important.
That's important.
I haven't had the same opportunities, or there's been a lot of life's chances have been limited for me. That's another one. And finance is going to be a one. So poverty, growing up in an environment like that may make somebody feel like I have to take desperate measures to do what I have to do. But sadly, there's been a huge number who come from very good homes,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they have no reason to get involved in supplying, selling, whatever, and they are from very good homes. You know, you could almost say quite a few of them you could class as middle class,
Yeah.
and that is an issue. Why? What makes somebody who comes from a good family want to go down top boy route? For what reason? And usually it's fame, because it's cool, and sometimes they look down on the one who. What frustrates me sometimes I hear from some of my young people is they don't like geeks and nerds. You know, the nerds in the class, etc. You know, I don't want to be like that. Girls don't like that, or my friends aren't going to respect me. But I tell you something, a few years after that, it's funny because we know where the geeks are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I say that, it's not just anecdotal, it's actual, these are actual words and quotes I've heard
Yeah.
face
Well,
to face
that's
from
why I
young
asked,
people.
because this is your job. That's
And
what you do.
you know, there's a young man from London who's quite notorious at the moment, and he's telling me, I wish I was hanging around with the nerds from year 7, because I know where they are right now, and look where I have been in the last 18 months. And to actually admit something like that, it takes a lot of guts to, you know, put yourself down and say, do you know what? I wish I had just gone to lesson. I wish I had just asked for a part-time job with my uncle instead of wanting to trap and sell drugs. But poverty is always going to be one of the reasons.
It is a big factor.
The problem is also, though, how, as a professional, you can try some of these things around poverty or telling a young person to stop committing a certain crime, but they can turn around and say to you, well, what's there for me after you go home? You will go home, and I will have to go back to the flat I'm living in, or the bedsit, or the environment I'm in. How can you stop something like that? But the reason I'm saying that is because there is support available, but it's how young people, or they feel safe and welcome to try and accept that.
It's a crazy, and sometimes the things that come across, you know, we say desk, but they don't acknowledge desk. You know, the things that come across your desk. I'll give you an example. When I first started as a social worker, and I was working where you are now, and I had this case. I was probably about 3 months in. And, you know, you're a bit hyped up in your new job and whatever. You've got all this power now and so on. So I had this kid. He was on an order, failed to turn up for his appointment, first warning. Failed to turn up for his second appointment, final warning. Failed to turn up for his third appointment, goes back to court. Still works like that. Breach. So this kid, on paper now, he's going back to court. He's breached his order because he's failing to attend his appointments. However, I get a phone call from reception downstairs. They said, Kirk, Joe Bloggs is downstairs. I was like, right, keep him there. Don't let him go out the building. I'm on my way down now. I grabbed this folder, running downstairs. I think, right, I'm going to give it to him now. Get in this room, sitting opposite him, just how I'm sitting opposite you. And I start giving him double barrels, like, I've got to breach you back to court now. You've missed 3-4 appointments. What the hell are you playing at? Blah. And he's just looking at me dead in the eye. No response, nothing. Just literally looking at me, square on, dead in my eye. So I said, you're not even responding. Are you even bothered? You're even bothered you're going to go back to court. You're probably going to go to prison now. You do know that.
Yeah.
And he stopped me and he says, Kirk, and I had my diary on front of me like this, how this book is now on the table. And he pointed at the diary and he said, Kirk, if my life worked to a diary like yours, I wouldn't be sitting on this side of the table.
And that's a fact.
And I just got blown away by that. And I was like, wow. And obviously I wasn't saying wow in front of him and whatever. We carried on with the thing. But I went back upstairs and I was scratching my head. And I'm thinking, the way we try and do things in our processy, policy, strategic kind of way sometimes doesn't fit with the reality of people's lives.
It's not a mould that they can adapt to.
And that was a perfect example. And when we follow on the conversation, he's telling me, you're giving me letters to attend an appointment in 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tonight.
And that's a fact, yeah.
So you're giving me a letter to attend an appointment in 3 days, and I don't know if I'm going to have anywhere to sleep tonight. The difference in our worlds from a massive professional
the gulf is huge.
to the reality, it taught me that one meeting with that young person taught me a lot. Taught me a huge amount.
It's humbling, honestly. Really did. It is humbling.
It really did. You still have those now? Do you still have
It's
those
still the
moments
same.
at work where
All
you
the time.
scratch your head and
Yeah,
go,
all the
wow.
time.
Because you must have seen a lot. You know, I
Yeah.
can remember from my time. I've seen a lot of things, and it's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. But like I said, there is support available, and young people, especially those that are aged between 10 and 19, 10 and 18, etc., they need to realize that some of these mistakes can last a very long time. The impact on your future, it can be incredible. Yeah.
Jobs, as an example.
Doors will shut on you. It doesn't mean that there is no support after that. There is always going to be support, but you will severely limit your life chances and opportunities, especially chasing the wrong company. Friends you're not going to be friends with in a few years' time, and just doing things for the sake of trying to save face with your friends will cost you dearly. So it's important, especially.
I'll give you an example of that. Now, in one of my workspaces, I've created a ex-offender program. It's an employment program. So what we're trying to do is all offenders across, all employees across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland that will offer opportunities to people that have an offending history, come and advertise their opportunities and look for support on this or in this one place. And then anybody that's looking for work who's been an ex-offender can also come into this one place. So we have one platform now where we can match it up, and we started to do that. And it's been, you know what, the response has been brilliant. Sometimes companies just don't know how easy it is.
Yeah, they don't realise.
To recruit. They think it's, going to be, they're going to have people like Fred West working in their warehouses and stuff like that.
Because it is scary as an employee. You would fear for your company.
Some people just want a chance.
Yeah.
They just want a chance.
Well, that takes me on to another thing that I have heard a lot from offenders is who's gonna employ me. So then if they have that mindset that who's gonna give me a job realistically, and they're asking you this sometimes without any evidence, it's just they feel like no one's gonna give them a job. So they're very less likely to go out and look for a job because they think, I'm sick and tired of having doors shut on me. So why would I embarrass myself like that again?
It's true. So another thing we've done with that program, we've done a really simple thing, and it'll sound so simple. Ban the box. So on every application form, there's a box that says, do you have any criminal convictions? Yes, no. If you tick yes, you have to go further down and add additional details. What we've done with all of the partners that come on board, and when I say the partners, we're talking to ourselves as well now. So like the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, the City Council, the districts, the County Council, whoever has signed up and as part of our strategic group, we're employing ex-offenders as well. We've taken that box off the application form. So you don't have to disclose at that point. Because what happens is they tick the box and then they're not even invited for an interview. But you're missing out on some unbelievable talent. So by taking the ban the box, we call it, off the application form, a person you can judge in the interview room.
How you should
and you
be,
can ask them that question then. Of course you can, you know, because you need to know. You need to protect your business for obvious reasons, especially around certain offence types.
Yeah, of course.
But speak to the person. Get to know the person. Get the person in front of you. Offer them the interview and have that conversation. Whereas making them tick a box, you throw them out with the rubbish straight away. So we've done that as part of the charter. So to sign up to the charter, you have to ban the box. It's been brilliant.
And it can be such a huge confidence, self-esteem builder for them, because that, like I said, the rejection point, a lot of them are used to this. And it's started from, say, school, college, or something else, and it's carried on, the rejection.
And it becomes a reason not to do it.
Exactly.
So when you're saying look for a job, they're saying, what's the point?
What's the point? Who's going to give me a job? Or I've been sacked from 5. Why would I try that again? And
I totally get that. I
like the sound of this ban the box. Because that's how it should be. We should be judging people on that face value and offer them the opportunity.
Well, that's all they want. And if they're not right for you, there's no compulsion for you to take them.
It's interesting though, because the likelihood of them reoffending once they get a job is so minimal.
The statistics that go down for people when they're in employment, fixed employment for 3 to 6 months, the percentage chance of them reoffending is phenomenal.
So as a community, it serves all of our interests and purposes to help them get into a job. It's easy to moan about these things and say, you know, there's crime going up, etc., and there's offending, or certain people on the street. Have we got a call? Hello, assalamu alaikum. Oh, we did have a call.
We've lost the call.
We lost the caller. He's going to get them back.
Yeah, so we've got to, the first half of this show is identifying, I guess, the obvious, really.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's going on in our communities, and none of these things are different to any other communities, but...
We got a call?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sorry, can I speak with them?
Yes, you're through to the presenters right now, sister.
Oh, sorry.
Wa alaikum salam.
I have a quick question for you guys.
Sure.
This subject of today that you're talking about, it's brilliant that you guys have done this, because it's something that basically what it is, it's something personal, because I have a couple of, not just one or two, but quite a few cousins that have kind of fallen into this circle, and it's happened to them from a very young age and into their adult age now, which they are finding very, very difficult and hard, especially in the Leicester location, in the area of Leicester, to come out of this, generally because the opportunities are not available for them, or they're just looked at, those people, from those so-and-so gang members, or those faces that people have seen around from the papers. I want to know what you guys, or if there's something out there to help these lot, because believe me, for years I have been trying to help my cousins get out of the situation they're in now, but simply because there's no opportunities of people that were willing to give them that chance.
Yeah, you know what
is out there for them?
What it is, firstly, sister, Jazakallah for calling in. It takes a lot of guts to ring in and admit these things, and I welcome that, and anyone else that would ring in as well. The first thing I would say, without actually knowing anything about your situation, is I would say one of the reasons it's been difficult is because your family, and it can just appear as like a constant nagging or something when it's a family member. Yet when it's done from somebody that's outside of the family, an external person, it can take the weight off the conversation anyway, but it can have more of an impact.
I've been trying my best to actually appoint other people to try and help these. And I've tried so much in the community, especially with the masjid and our elders like Maulanas and everyone that you get in the areas, to try and help me out with the situation of not only just family members, but even their friends, because there's so many of them. But I for the years that I've been trying, I haven't seemed to go anywhere. And the only thing that I find is people just basically look the other way, because they just think, oh, it's trouble. But I understand my family members and their friends of where they're coming from, because if they're not given the chance or opportunities from people whilst they're being judged by everyone,
of course,
they're not going to come out of it, or there's nothing there for them to do. Quite a couple of them have actually hit really bad depression because they're sat at home and not able to work or do anything. And it's like you said, quite a few of them are quite talented in things that they do or they know.
I think for the second part of the program, what we want to move on to is kind of look at the positives. And one of the objectives as talking about this is, what can we actually do about this? Because you're absolutely right, 100%. It is very, very difficult to find external support within the networks or the communities in which we exist. And there are some people doing things, but you have to kind of know them or be able to be connected to them and so on. I think one of the things my objective going forward is to try and make sure, in the same way with the ex-offenders program that I set up, was that there's a platform available for anybody to get in touch and offer some services and some support for whatever the need is. Now, you can't do everything, but in certain things, like some of the things that we've covered, there's obvious things, and this is one of them. But if you want to leave your number and name, I'll definitely come back to you on that. And if there is anything immediate we can do, then we'll do that. And if not, it probably will be something you can be involved in going further down the line.
Yes, that would be great. I'd really appreciate that.
The producer will take your number, inshallah.
A couple of them have relapsed, and I don't want that to be constantly happening.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
So inshallah, producer will take the details from you.
And Jazakallah for calling as well. It does take some different energy to do that.
Definitely.
I know it does.
So anybody else that would like to ring in or text the landline for the radio station, you should know it by heart now, nearly 5 days away from Eid, but it is 482-2086, and the mobile number is 0774 88 55 055.
And how many people like that sister you think are out there that want a name, that want a contact, that want a place, a website or something where they can tap
Just
in
anything.
with a bit of confidence and say, I need a bit of help. Can you help?
I would say there is more than people think. There's a lot more just like that, sister, and there will be more. If we left the lines open, we would be inundated.
Yeah, I'm sure we would. I don't know if
we've got 2 minutes left for a
that call
for a
took
break.
us into our break, but we've been shuffled into a new break time.
But yeah,
So
inshallah.
yeah, I think going forward for the next part after the break, Hassan, what I really want to focus on is some of the positives.
Yeah,
And the positives around our community
we'll definitely
and
go
what
into that.
opportunities we could try and establish and make, and how we can take things forward, because I don't want to stay in a negative space. Anyone can moan about stuff. I'm not a moaner. I want to get things done, and I know there's a lot of energy out there. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm out there, and I want to bring that energy and I want to bring that enthusiasm, and I want to try and make something happen. And there's some people behind the scenes as well that I'm having these discussions with that are saying, let's get on and do it, let's make it happen. So there's an energy. I think we just got to stop talking.
Build that momentum.
Build the momentum.
Inshallah, yeah.
Use the momentum. Use the radio station as a platform with its listener base and so on and so on. I'm probably going to, regret it or get told off for this, but I'm even going to give my personal phone number for people once we go into the second part.
Yeah.
Because I want people to get in touch that says, I don't know what I can do. I don't know what I can do at this moment in time, but I don't know what I can do, but I want to help. And then we can come together at the right point after COVID, whenever it is, sit in a room, do some head scratching and say, well, what can we do and how can we coordinate it? So that's the second part of how we can get some positives out of this, because like the sister, there's many other families, many other individuals.
And we'll welcome everybody to ring in.
Help.
After the break, inshallah, I'm going to read out some of these comments that people are leaving on various social media platforms. So inshallah, we'll be back after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Ramadan Radio 87.9 FM. Your host, Hassan Saman, and my co-host.
Assalamu alaikum. Kirk here. We swapped roles today. Really enjoying this, Hassan?
Yeah?
Yeah?
Get comfortable.
Yeah?
Because we're going into the positives.
Is that chair a bit bigger than this one, or the same chair?
This is the one that swivels, and so now I realise why you sit here. Right, just a couple of comments I wanted to read out from before, from some of our dear listeners. Jadzi, as these problems come to light, more than the groups who help in these fields will be more well known, definitely. Mental health is definitely one aspect that needs more attention. 100%, we agree with that. Shabnam, despite of talking about mental health, people don't even help much, so it's pointless. And I don't know, is that, sorry sister, is that, are you speaking from like personal experience that you've seen people not actually receiving support? If you could just clarify, but you are actually right. Sometimes the therapists don't get on with, you know, the clients. There could be a variety of reasons.
I think as well, sometimes the mental health referral process into
It's
those
so long.
formal systems, it takes so long. I don't know where it's at now, but
It got worse during lockdown.
really, as an example, at
got
one
worse.
point for young people to be referred into what we know as CAMS was anything from 14 months for a referral.
Yeah.
Who's going to wait for 14 months for a referral to
That's
see
why a
if
lot of people
some
don't.
support? It's ridiculous.
I've come across quite a few undiagnosed. So they are those that probably would have had a diagnosis if they were transferred straight away. But because of the process, they were like, forget this, I'll deal with it myself. And it's just gone untreated. Another comment, even rich boys are selling drugs. So but the Shazeb hits a nail on the head there. That's something I have mentioned before the break. There is, unfortunately, a lot of young people, young men who come from good families, could go into family business or, you know, have a normal job. They're graduates or they've got degrees in other things, A-levels, whatever, but they choose to get involved in drugs. So it does happen.
Everybody has criminals in their communities. You know, we're no different to any other community. But I think what I'm starting to get concerned about and have been concerned about for a while actually is the number of young people that are actually using drugs, especially smoking weed and so on and so on. And they're kind of the platform or the first steps to other things. You know, there's
the spiral.
It's like a domino effect, isn't it? And that's just become the norm. I mean, I might be showing my age a bit, but back in the day, people would smoke. It'd be very kind of hidden and out the way, and you try and do it wherever. People would go
Private.
Miles away.
Yeah.
Now, no one's bothered.
Yeah.
No one's bothered. They're smoking outside
It's
their
open
front
now,
door.
yeah, it's cool.
They're smoking leaning up on their car. You know, they're smoking where everybody can see what they're doing.
But people put this on even social media now, so it's now a normal thing just to put that you
so
are
if you're
doing this
smoking
and on pictures and videos. Whereas back in the day, like you said, you would hide in case somebody knew your dad or your mum, or there was a imam was walking around the corner, so you would be hiding. But now it's just normal to put these things out there.
Crazy.
Another comment: Atlas Boxing Club is the place to be for the youths, especially when youth clubs are closed. Place for them to become men and learn some discipline. There is female fighters as well, so yeah, a big shout out to Atlas Boxing and other boxing clubs as well in the city. Unfortunately, it's sometimes a cycle. Once they have a criminal record, it's hard for them to get a proper job, so they fall back into bad habits. The system doesn't help for rehabilitation. So yeah, that's something we did touch on, and that's one of the things that Kirk mentioned about the program for the Ban the Box.
Ban the Box.
Yeah.
Well, that's just started. That's a new program that's going on. And at this moment in time, it's within kind of what you call statutory organisations, statutory partners, public sector bodies. But hopefully, that could be something that we could bring into a community space.
Yeah.
How many employers do we have within the Muslim community, from textiles
thousands
to all the shops, the takeaways, the taxis? There's so much development, businesses, blah, 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 accountants.
Yeah.
We have a huge array of businesses within our own communities.
Yeah.
If we could pull, just for argument's sake, just a random number, 50 businesses together to say, can you offer 5 opportunities a year for people who have had criminal convictions.
Just some work experience.
How many is that?
Yeah.
5 times 50. I'm not, maths is not my best thing. 250. There's 250 opportunities for somebody who's had a criminal conviction to go into employment. That doesn't sound difficult, but it needs coordinating.
It needs coordinating.
It needs managing.
Yeah.
It needs some way of making it real, rather than just a conversation.
So the sister, Maria, she is actually right. It is quite difficult for offenders to get jobs once they're trying to rehabilitate, but it's not impossible. I know plenty of people who have been inside, or those who have just been on probation and are in really successful careers, really good jobs, etc. There's loads of people out there, so it is not impossible. So I'd say just keep fighting.
Yeah, I think the next one's for me particularly. Kirk Master,
have you upset someone?
It looks like well, you know what? In my line of work, unfortunately, you can't please everybody.
It mentions ignoring emails, so maybe it's gone to your junk folder.
Yeah, it might have. I won't say who that is, but if you've got my email or number, just give me a call. You can do it after this show if you want, and I'll come back to you. So where are we? What are we on?
So we were going to talk about the positives now, because
well, in our community, for me, I know we spoke about some of the ills of our communities, and as I said, and I keep repeating, we're no different. So I don't want people to think that we're some downtrodden, crazy, aloof, single, standalone community that only has these issues. We're not. We're very far from that. Very far from that. But what I also see in our community is some fantastic work being done. Voluntary work, community work, charity work within our community, working
incredible
with
businesses,
other communities.
yeah, successful.
We have a huge amount of successful businesses. Businesses. And how are we utilising that? So we're a young population. Here in the city, the Muslim community is a young population in comparison to other cities.
Right.
We've got skills, we've got expertise, we've got educated young people. Where are we, or how can we, is my question, utilise these people? I come across lots of groups and individuals that say, I want to give something back. In fact, I think it's on nature. As a Muslim community, as part of our religion, as part of our
very
deen,
charitable.
we're very charitable. We want to give back. What I want to try and establish going forward with the help of a number of different people, and as I said, some of these conversations are happening in the background as well. Where can we create a single platform that we can present as a community that says to our audience, whether it's through the schools, whether it's through the madrasas, whether it's through the mosque, whether it's through the businesses, whether it's through our social circles, whether it's through our family networks, wherever, if you need something, because we don't know what that something is yet, you can access it from here.
Why is something like this not online, given that everything is? That's where people are buying everything in terms of commerce online. They're getting into, say, their marriage, proposal, etc. online. Everything is done online. So why isn't a portal like that not being created?
That's the question.
Like a halalshadi.com. But really, it's like, for people to ring in and say, look, I'm a pharmacist with 10 years experience. I want to give 5 young people, 2-week placement.
There you go.
Or whatever type of businesses. There needs to be something online, I think.
So we need to create a platform, whether it's a virtual space or a physical space, because it works different for different communities. So some people in our community won't be as advanced in IT and the use of social media and etc. They need to knock on a physical door, or they need to be able to communicate with somebody face to face. Whereas others, especially the youngsters, in a social media space, they're fine. They've got no problem or no issues with that. So it probably does need to be kind of a 2-horse thing where this is. I don't think it'll work if it's one or the other. But then start to build it slowly so we can offer support around substance misuse at prevention level, and then signpost into other areas that might be doing with rehabilitation stuff, or even treatment stuff. Because there are groups in our community that do that as well.
Like when you see some local authorities, especially like Leicester and the county as well, with certain websites that they have where you can refer or report something, for example, in terms of, say, social care. So you could have a platform similar to that to say, this is what the issue is, this is what I need support in, can somebody contact me?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
how theirs works.
Like a referral system.
A referral
so
system
a gateway
online,
coming in,
Yeah.
somebody will put their information into a system, into a place.
Can somebody call me back when it's convenient?
Yeah,
about
I need to talk about X.
domestic violence, whatever it is.
Somebody
yeah.
will pick the phone up or send them some correspondence and say, absolutely, no problem, we can talk about that. What's the issue? Start that process off. It might be low-level stuff where it can be dealt with in-house. It might be more serious where other partners need to get involved. But at least you will have that support mechanism to take you through whatever system is relevant for you. It also allows a platform and opportunity for young people to give something back to society and to their own community. Because the young people in our community, honestly, Hassan, some of them are phenomenal. Honestly, their passion and their energy and their ability. I've not come across... And if we don't utilise that now...
It's going to be wasted.
It will be wasted. And then I feel that we've lost a generation and will be...
My issue with that has been that potential, when it goes untapped for ages, and when it isn't sourced properly, the negative elements of society will take that. They will take advantage of young people who are very smart, or they have a particular skill, so they will utilize that in a negative way. So we have to do something. But do you remember the burial group that we had on? They had a very simple portal. If you wanted to get involved, what did Amakasa say? It was just getting in contact with them, and then
get in contact.
They would call you.
They had some gatekeepers at the front that would say, what are you interested in doing? Then they would point them in the right direction, and simple. But they had the numbers to be able to make it happen. Yeah. And they put that reality to what they were talking about, because they had the volunteers, they had the coordination, and they had the skills. They had the skills within themselves to be able to do it. We've got the skills in our community to do these things. We have the skills. So we've just got to get on. We've got to get on. So let's see what happens.
Just had a text in saying, just tuned in, but definitely agree. We have so many young entrepreneurs, business owners in our community, and it'd be great if they can give back with practical support.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good text. So absolutely.
It makes sense. I mean, the radio station do charity day.
Yeah, they
every Saturday, Sundays, whatever days they are. And the work that those charities are doing, the way that they've built themselves up over the years and years, from all the ones that have come on constantly, really good stuff. What I find when I listen to most of it, and we shouldn't stop doing it, but I'm just saying, when I listen to it, it's all external and abroad. Yeah. What are we doing for our communities that are here?
So charity begins at home.
What are we doing for our communities that are here that need our help and support? And why I say that, let me give you an example. If we're losing our young people to society and all the ills that we've talked about, and they're moving away from us and this community ethos, who is going to be paying these charities and supporting these charities in 5, 10, 15 years' time? Yeah. They won't have that concept. So unless we bring that back now, this generation that are very charitable will be moving on into pastures new. The next generation that's coming behind them will do a little bit. The next generation that comes behind that, they won't have any connection with these.
So each one save one.
Absolutely. So we need to start focusing.
Just two things. One other text that was there. Plus, they would be fabulous role models and going forward leaders of the community, inshallah. So that's following on the text that business owners or people generally that are involved in any successful career or whatever, if they want to get involved, then please, that's a different type of pledge altogether. I would recommend, if you are a business owner or a company director or someone that's involved in a scheme like that, contact the radio station if you can offer any type of opportunity to a young person or a young man, young woman, and where you can offer them, even if it's something basic like interview skills, how to come across in an interview successfully, how to put yourself off to like prospective employers. If you can give them a 1 week, 2 week placement, whatever it is, I'm sure you could iron out details, etc. There's something
before we go on to that message, I want to give and the person that's messaging as well about contacting me, I'm going to give you my personal phone number so you can contact me after this show's finished. and whatever messages you've left or emails, you can speak to me directly. It's 07814 302 743. But I'm not giving the number for that person, but they can use that number and contact me. That number and the email or the contact details for the radio station. Get in touch if any young people want to have this conversation, any person actually that wants to have this conversation when we're able to, in person, in a space where we can start to discuss how we can make this happen. As I said before, I don't just want to talk about this. There's other people that are already talking with me about this. There's other people in the background that are having these conversations as well. I want to bring this into one space where people can share their views and opinions about how we can make something tangible happen. So
get involved.
Yeah. I've given you my personal phone number there and all the contact details on the radio station. Use all of them, get in touch, and then at some point when the opportunity arises, post-COVID, whenever that's going to be, we will then come into this space and just have a discussion about how we can make something practical happen.
Just a final message I need to read out. Businesses and residents on Evington Road are struggling with parking restrictions. Businesses need short-term parking bays available, please. Feedback from, am I allowed to say these names out? Okay, so Burger Bro, Chaiwala, Said Kamal, Colour Paints, Ace Properties, and other assorted businesses all along the road are feeding back.
I've lived in this area forever. Parking restrictions or no parking restrictions, people's parking behaviour doesn't change. The road is always being abused by people that are just coming and using the road to drop off, pick up, takeaways, and etc. The current restrictions that are in place because of the COVID stuff, they will be being removed shortly, as soon as we can. Obviously, the national restrictions that apply to us as well. So we're just following the guidance and the legislation. So as soon as they're out, and they will be coming out soon. So watch this space. But in terms of parking more generally on the road, we as the community, because it's our community that use this road 24/7, have to take more responsibility for their behaviours, the rubbish and everything else. And I didn't want to get on that tip, but it really does annoy me because the residents that live here, like us, that see it in the morning when we come here with our kids and whatever, don't like it. And it's not good, so we have to take some responsibility for it.
So it's a 50-50 relationship.
It's a 50-50 thing, but the parking thing with the cones, as soon as the national guidance is moved, and I think it's imminently will be done, then we'll come out they'll all come out from there and the bays will go back. But people will still park double lined on the curb, on the corners,
like it's Karachi,
over the pedestrian crossing.
Like
makes
it's Karachi
no
or
difference
Calcutta, they still
so,
park like that.
So just finally, anyone wants to get in touch, use all the radio stations, contact details, the text messaging, the landline, the web address, the Facebook, whatever. And my number is 07814 302 743. Feel free to get in touch. And thank you for listening. Just really, really quickly, thank you to the radio station and all the volunteers that make this happen as well. And I wish all of you have a great final few days in Ramadan and looking forward to Eid. It's been hard again, but let's do our final bit. Stay safe, everybody. And Assalamu alaikum.